There's been some questions recently regarding how to eat to lose fat and gain lean muscle tissue, especially for the ladies. They have a hard time getting a grasp on what foods they can eat and what foods they can't eat. Now, today I'm going to have a little lunch here after workout. It's a protein lunch, and I'm going to start with some tuna. Now, I've got skipjack tuna in a can, the small cans, and it's a light tuna. The skipjack, since it's a smaller tuna, is less likely to have mercury in it. That's why I use this. Now, for you ladies out there, you probably want to just eat the one can. For me and the bodybuilders out there, we're going to use 2 cans. Okay, we've drained the water out. Now, we want to add some flavor to this so it's palatable, because it's very dry. It's shipped in water. It's not shipped in oil. Okay, so I'm going to take some sweet relish, and since I've got 2 cans, I'm going to put in 2 teaspoons of sweet relish. Now, if you go to the deli, you're going to have a lot of sugar in tuna salad. So we don't want that refined sugar, so we're going to use Sweet and Low, or this is an imitation, a cheaper brand of Sweet and Low. It's sucralose. It has no calories. Going to put 1 little packet in there. And then we want some fat to make the protein digestible. And we also want to get some moisture into this meal. And we're going to use mayo, real mayonnaise. Okay? Now, I'm going to put in a little bit more than a tablespoon because I've got 2 cans of tuna. Now I'm going to mix this, and I'm using a dog bowl because I've got such a large portion. And you want to make sure that it's thoroughly mixed because these chunks are so dry. You just have to chop them up and mix this mayo. Might take a few minutes. And then you're going to have way more than you need here if you're a lady. Probably just the right amount if you're a guy, a bodybuilder, a power lifter. And some iced tea would go with this. Plain iced tea is great. If you can't do that, again, use the Sweet and Low. Make it a little sweeter. And but stay away from the sugar, refined sugar in tea. And that's basically your meal, your lunchtime meal right after workout. Now, if you're on the multi-carbohydrate leverage loading diet, you've got this tuna for lunch. You're going to want to add 2 starchy carbohydrates and 2 fibrous carbohydrates. So as far as the fibrous carbohydrates, you might want to add nuts, raspberries, something that's fun to eat. And then for the starchy carbohydrates, you could add a sweet potato, or you could put some of the tuna on whole grain bread. That's considered a starchy carbohydrate. So you got to get inventive, and you probably want to look everything up that you add to your meal to make sure if it's a starchy or a fibrous carbohydrate. It's a learning process and it takes time. But this is another example of a very nutritious lunch that a person that's bodybuilding or trying to lose fat, trying to gain lean muscle mass, this is the type of meal they would eat at lunchtime. Now let's take a look at a supper meal, a dinner meal, a evening meal. Now, what I want to do is create a meal that we might see in our multi-carbohydrate leverage loading diet. That is a meal with lean protein. Here we have ground sirloin and a fibrous carbohydrate, which is broccoli. I use frozen broccoli because it's less work. I don't have to chop it up, and I've been having a lot of trouble finding broccoli that is fresh. It doesn't have mold on it. It's not turning yellow. Okay? And then we have our starchy carbohydrate, instant white rice. Now you might ask, why don't I use brown rice? Well, You do get more fiber in brown rice, but instant rice is much easier for the body to digest, okay? We're going to add a little mayo. I use real mayo, Berman's mayonnaise, because it's going to be very dry, and I want some fat to help me digest my protein. Then I'm going to use bottled water to boil the rice and the broccoli. I don't want to use tap water because there's heavy metal in the tap water and various other things that I consider toxic, chlorine and so forth, in tap water. Now this meal will be a meal in and of itself. You don't have to have anything with this meal. It contains everything you need in this one bowl. We're going to put this in one big bowl. Actually, we're going to use a salad bowl, and I will use this for several days. I'll be able to eat from that bowl for several days. That's how much we're going to make. We're going to use 4 cups of white rice. We've got a pound of ground sirloin, and you can use anywhere from 1 to 2 of these bags of broccoli. Okay, so I have browned the ground sirloin, cooked the 4 cups of white rice and the bag of broccoli, added them to the salad bowl, and also added 3 heaping tablespoons of mayo because this is a dry dish and I do want some fat to help me digest the protein. Now, this is a typical example of a meal that you could incorporate into your multi-carbohydrate leverage loading diet, where you're required to have a lean protein, 2 starchy carbohydrates, and 2 fibrous carbohydrates. Now, we have the fibrous carbohydrate, which is broccoli. We would have to add a second fibrous carbohydrate, which might be zucchini. And then for another starchy carbohydrate, we could add a white potato or a sweet potato, even on the side. It doesn't have to be mixed in the bowl. Now, most people don't realize that there's 10 grams of starch per cup of white potato. There are 16.8 grams of starch per sweet potato. So actually, the sweet potato is higher in starch. So you'll have to make the decision on which one to use. But this is another example of how you eat when you're trying to lose weight and gain lean muscle mass. Okay, in review now. The multi-carbohydrate leverage loading diet uses the 2 starchy carbohydrates, the 2 fibrous carbohydrates, and the lean protein in that combination for a reason, okay? Now, first of all, you're going to eat 6 to 8 times a day, okay? And by doing that, you're actually making sure that you have an insulin release throughout the day and evening, because insulin is what? It's anabolic. What does that mean? It means that it sends free-form amino acids to the muscle cells, okay? So you're constantly having your muscles fed. Okay, now, the 2 starchy carbohydrates, the 2 fibrous carbohydrates, the fibrous carbohydrates with the protein slow down the digestion of the starchy carbohydrates so that you're not, again, getting that steady insulin release, okay? You're not getting a rush of carbs and a sudden release of insulin, and then you drop your blood sugar drops suddenly. You don't have that. Throughout the day, you have a steady release of carbs and a steady release of insulin, so that your body's being fed protein throughout the day and evening. This is how you build lean muscle tissue and lose weight, lose fat, okay, by eating this lean diet throughout the day and being fed the proper amount of protein that you need after you train very, very hard to gain that muscle. If you're not taking steroids, don't worry, you're not going to get bulky, but you're going to need a lot of protein to build muscle. The body does not want to change. So you've got to not only train very, very hard to get that muscle tissue, but you've got to feed it too. And if you're a lady, you don't have to worry about bulking up. You're not taking steroids like the ladies at the Olympia. You're taking food and using that to build lean muscle tissue, because how does fat lose the body? There's leave the body. There's only one way, and that's through muscle. So what you're going to develop is a fitness look, like a fitness model. Very lean and toned. That's what you do by training naturally. You're not going to bulk up unless you're using steroids. And I'm sure most of you ladies are not using steroids. So don't be afraid to train hard and eat 6 to 8 meals per day.